Hey everybody, this is Lauren Wells on the education team here at Tripleseat. I've got with me today Brian Nesty. He is the Chief Customer Officer here at Tripleseat, and he's got a nice little presentation for us that's all about success within Tripleseat. So not only success for your own team and how you can streamline things, but also from the guest perspective. So just how to make things smoother on their end, cut back on any friction in the booking process to make the event more successful for the client and hopefully to get that rebooked business in the future if you ever reach out to them again. So we're going to get started with a presentation, some slides that Brian has, and we'll have these available as a PDF that you can all download after the webinar is over. So follow along. After Brian's presentation is complete, I'm going to go into Tripleseat and take you in to show you around how to implement some of the features that he spoke about. So all that being said, Brian, take it away.
Hi, everyone. This is Brian. Thank you for the introduction, Lauren. I appreciate that. Like Lauren said, I'm the Chief Customer Officer here at Tripleseat. I've probably talked to some of you on the phone, or my team has. They're the account management team. We definitely touch a lot of different areas within Tripleseat and our customers. So I hope you've dealt with someone on our team or me directly at some point. And I look forward to talking to any of you if you have any questions. Like Lauren said, there's going to be time at the end of my session this morning for questions, and you can always email me afterwards, brian@tripleseat.com, Brian with an I. Lauren will have that information for you too. So let's go ahead and get started. You know, I've been looking at this, and I've been with Tripleseat for 9 years, and I have a background in sales and catering automation from Delphi and Daylight. So I've been doing this for years. I know my team is really focused on customer success, and ultimately you all are focused on customer success. I mean, clearly, you know, the success of the event and the success of you crossing all of the stages and going through all the hurdles to get someone what they need and have a good experience for them is what brings them back to you and continues that relationship. People don't really spend the time in restaurants and hotels to sit down and map out that success roadmap. We have to do it in the tech industry all the time. So it's kind of something that we are more familiar with, but you know what, it makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to go through, I made a really specific roadmap for events and restaurants. And we have a little bit about why, and I'll go through the slides and then, like I said, I'll open up for questions. So go ahead and get started. This gentleman is David Blake. He is the founder and CEO of a company called Client Success, and you know he's got some great stuff on the web if you Google him. But I like his main point here: every touch point matters when it comes to delivering a positive customer experience. I think in the restaurant and event industry, even more so. You know, we're dealing with the tangible and the intangible. So it's people's experience and the food and the venue and you know all of these other things. So it's really interesting because there's so many different ways that you're impacting the experience, and you want to make sure that ultimately your customer has a great experience. So CX is an acronym that you're going to see in commerce and customer experience. It's the interaction between an organization and a customer over the duration of their relationship. So this is you from the very first time you interact with your customer through hopefully rebooking their event and working with them more in the future. You probably haven't mapped it before. You know, we say, have you mapped it? And really, you'll see a map in a couple of minutes, but you know, it's important to know the whole journey that they're going through. There's some best practices that are really easy to follow when you're looking at mapping your customer journey. Like I said, I've done most of it for you. There's some details that Lauren's going to cover, but it's good to involve your whole team to develop your roadmap. Super hard to do in a restaurant. Everyone works different hours. They have different roles. But when you do it, you find out some really interesting things. So we're going to start with the steps here. Use an outside-in approach. Remember to view the journey from the customer's experience and their perspective rather than just your company. Starts at the first impression and guides them through the whole process, hopefully to success and rebooking. Define your handoffs. You know, every time you hand something off, as I'm sure you all know, is a place where there could be failure. And we don't want that. We want to make sure that we've checked all the failure points in anything that we're doing and eliminate them or make things smoother. Don't make people jump through hoops when they don't have to. The handoffs that you probably experienced are the lead might be entered by someone at the hostess stand, or maybe they called in, or maybe they put in the lead through your website, right? The lead response, that's another experience. It's another handoff, converting the booking, and then on site, what happens with the customer on site. Focus on the key moments of truth. I really think that the moments of truth that we're looking at in the journey are things like signing a contract, right? Paying a deposit, getting a guaranteed guest count, of course, final payment. But these are all moments of truth. They're milestones. And it proves that the customer is progressing. These are also the milestones that you see when you have lost business, right? You end up with, an event that was tentative and they decide to go to another venue, right? So that's lost business now. You want to be able to record and understand all of those moments of truth to find out what areas you have to work on, or you could better serve the customer. Share your map with the customers and give them some insight. So share the map with several trusted customers that you have. They'll help you validate whether it's true or not. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable enough to give feedback. It'll give you dividends in the long run. So, this question, hey, so you book a lot of private events with us. Will you be willing to take a few minutes to give me some feedback? Sue might say, yeah, I prefer seeing the menu larger and I'd like to pay online. Things that are important. If she said that, probably other customers are feeling the same way. Measure and optimize the journey map. The map will change in your organization as your customers evolve. It should be something that you did a couple years ago, but make sure that you keep changing it. Right now, having your website up to date, having your private event form, having your Facebook lead, all of these ways that we market to customers have been changing. So that kind of stuff should be changing in your map too. Also, just implementing something like Tripleseat is clearly a change in the map and hopefully makes it much smoother. So this little diagram really goes through the phases of the customer's journey. So the customer at the top is going across this journey. The green boxes are really all of the steps in the journey, right? So the first is the first visit or brand impression. So they see your website, they're looking for a venue that has private events. I've got some supporting slides after that I run through this slide. Engaging in valuation, so that's sending them menus, getting them a proposal. And then down the left-hand side, we have the teams that are associated with these. So you see how many areas you're interacting with in your organization, and that they have to have a smooth transition, because any transition between these things causes friction for the guest, and that, of course, does not lead to success when there's friction. So engaging evaluation, sign contract, you detail the event, internal planning, providing that information to front of house, back of house chefs, ultimately event and the final payment. It's going to affect all of those people, and then rebooking. The salesperson goes back and says, hey, you had a great event and it was successful. Let's see, do you have any other social events coming up in the next 6 months, or are you corporate group? Does this meeting happen more often? Should we, can we go through and rebook this? So this little slide is really kind of a picture of the journey. So first, brand impression. In this case, I have the private event page from the Press Club's website. They do a ton of corporate events. When I click on private events, I go to a page that has the information really clearly provided to me. You'll see in green towards the bottom of the page that it says submit an event inquiry or download your event kit. So right there, we've eliminated any friction, because the customer can put in their query and they can get their event kit right away. All right. The next step is, of course, contract and communication, getting them a contract or a proposal and providing that to them in a fashion that is really easy to use. If you look at the guest portal right here, their experience is, okay, wow, this guest portal is awesome. I got everything I need for my event. Or I have my overview, I have my documents, I've got discussions, payments, tasks. I have it all in one place. I'm not running around looking for stuff or looking through emails, searching, through somebody else's email, having stuff forwarded to me. I know what's in this portal, and it's all in one place. The internal planning process, actually, I think I missed the slide. Detailing the event, of course, filling out the BEO, making sure that you get all that stuff right. You're probably all quite familiar with that portion. Very important. Internal planning, making sure that all of the other departments have what they need. So make sure that you have a kitchen sheet that the kitchen can read. Make sure that you have a front of house BEO or a BEO that has the right information for the other departments. And discussions here. So I've used discussions here. So see kitchen notes. Clearly, that's going to direct someone to the kitchen notes. It's logged in Tripleseat that I have kitchen notes that are special on this, and that I want people to see them. And then finally, the event. The event happens. It's serviced from your teams, and they go through the event, and hopefully at the end of the event, they're paying for it. Make it easy for them. I think that if you ask people, do you love the papyrus font on our menu that we sent you, or do you love the fact that you didn't have to print out your credit card information and fax it back to me? You could actually do that all online. If you ask someone outside about their customer experience, those are the kind of things they're going to come back and say, what's really important to me, that you make it easy for me. You make it easy, you make it really concise, and I feel like everything is well covered. The last part, of course, is rebooking. So this group had a successful event, and the ultimate sign of that successful event is that they rebook something. So I created a task to remind me 6 months after my event to give them a call and see if they'd like to actually go through and rebook. All right, I'm just going to go back to that, to the roadmap here. There's a lot more detail that can be applied to this. Lauren's going to go through and show you some of the ways that Tripleseat handles this, but by looking at this roadmap and following this, and really lessening the impact of the hurdles as it moves throughout the customer's experience is really the best way to have them, make them happy and have a successful event. So I guess any questions, let Lauren know, and she's going to let me know, and we'll answer them, and then we'll move on to Lauren's portion.
Great. So yeah, there is a question feature within your webinar control panel. So if anybody wants to jump in with a question, feel free to type that right in, and we'll read and answer any of them. I am going to show you how to implement all of that stuff in a demonstration in Tripleseat, but any kind of broader questions about success for your customers or within your organization, feel free to type those in. We'll give you just a minute or two, and we'll go over them. Okay, I don't think we have any questions at this point. I know Brian said you all could feel free to email questions to Brian. So he is just Brian, that's Brian with an I, B-R-I-A-N @tripleseat.com. Feel free to email Brian any of your questions. And then maybe we'll have some questions about implementation once we're through with the second part of the webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this demonstration here for you. Okay, so what you're all seeing right now is an example of a lead form on a restaurant website. So I want to start with the very first place that your customers are likely to have an experience with you and how you can impact that right from the get-go with your Tripleseat account. So here's a Tripleseat inquiry form, a lead form that's been embedded onto this restaurant's website. So as you can see here, it's beautifully done. It's all stays within the brand and the feel of the restaurant, and it's a place where this person can come in and easily put in their information and submit an event request. So let me go through here and just plug in a couple of fields so you can see how simple it is. So they're just going to jot down some of their basic details. So if you're not already utilizing this form, every account comes with access to a form like this. And you have two choices. You can embed this right onto your own website if you have a particular way that you want it to look. You can also just use what we call a hosted form. So that would be your client clicking on a link that takes them to a page outside of your website. Both are fine. It's just a matter of if you have somebody on your web team that can embed this for you. So your customer just fills in their information here, and then they hit submit. They need their phone number here. So as soon as they do this, oops, I'm sorry, I just forgot one field. As soon as they submit their inquiry, they get this pop-up message on screen that tells them that their request has been received. And then you'll be getting an email. Anybody on your team that you've designated to get a lead email is going to get an email, and it's going to go right into your Tripleseat site. So from the very first stage of the inquiry, we've made this very simple for them. They've put in their information, and we've told them right away that we've got your request, and we're going to get back to you. And we also put on this page a link to menus and more info on the private dining space. So all in one place from our website, they've submitted their inquiry and they've got access to our menus and more information. That's probably the next few things that they're looking to know. So that's the number one thing that you can do to make your contact with your guest really seamless. The next thing that you want to think about is how long does it take me to get back to anybody that's inquired? And then also, how am I doing that and what kind of information am I giving them at that stage? So within Tripleseat, here we are in Tripleseat, and any new leads that are coming in. So ask yourself, how long is it taking me to get back to these people, and how can I improve upon that, that time? One thing you can do to really get replies out quickly is to use email templates. So let me show you how an email template would work. Say I've got a request here. To respond to this person, I just go to action and comment. And now within the lead, I can use my discussions, my emails, to respond to them. If I have an email template preloaded into the system, I can just click on Email Editor and then choose my template. So maybe you have different versions of templates. You have a template saying, yes, we're available. Here's some pictures of the space and a link to our menus, or for different types of events, you might build out different templates. But take a look at how easy this is. So I just chose my template, and now I'm giving this customer all this information, pictures, and also a link to my menu. So that's making things very easy for them. And I did that in just one click, which is especially helpful if you're on your mobile device. So it's obviously, it can be cumbersome to type on your phone. If you have an email template built in, you're just choosing from a drop-down menu, and there's your beautifully crafted email. So lots of information right there for the client. To create email templates, if you're an administrative user, you can go into your settings and load in email templates for the whole company that everybody on your team can have access to. You can also put email templates into your own profile, and I'd be happy to answer questions about how to get those created after this is over. Before we leave the topic of leads, let's talk a little bit more about where that lead form can go and how you can reach that, how you can reach your potential customers with that lead form. So Maggie has asked, can this form be put into Facebook? So Maggie, the answer to that is yes, and we have a really quick way for you to integrate that inquiry form with your Facebook account. All you have to do is, the number one thing is have a Facebook account for the venue created. Just go into your Tripleseat settings, integrations. First option here is Facebook, and there's step-by-step instructions on screen that you can get to link up the account. So you just kind of plug in a little bit of information, and then what that does is create on your Facebook page a separate tab for event inquiries, and it's the same exact form. It just lives on Facebook. So people have had a lot of success putting that on Facebook because a lot of your customers are already on Facebook. And then other social media platforms too, like really anything you can think of, Instagram, LinkedIn, anywhere else that you might have, or an email blast, anywhere else that you might have some text that you want to put a link to that site, because not only can you integrate directly with Facebook, but you can take the URL for this page and plug it in anywhere that you want to. So if you're doing an email blast for the holidays, or if you're sending out a mailing or posting something on LinkedIn, you can plug it in right there. So that's the first interaction that your client has with you. Now, once you have already started a conversation with your client about an event, there's another point where things can get tricky for the client, where we're asking them to do something in order to book business. So if we're going to ask them to do something, we want it to be as smooth as possible. So let's take an example of an event where I have created a contract, and I want to send that contract out to my client, and I want them to do two things. For example, I want them to sign the contract, and I want them to pay the deposit. So I need to make this really easy for them to make sure that they get it done quickly. We can both move forward with the booking process, and that I've not made any friction that's going to make them stop and potentially go somewhere else for an event because they couldn't figure out how to get me what I needed. So let's pull up a contract here. So there's a couple features that are available to you that's going to make this so easy for your client. The number one thing is electronic signatures. So you can have a box right on your contract where all your client needs to do to confirm is type their name and click accept. So that's an electronic signature. It's going to timestamp it for you. It's going to send you a notification when the contract gets signed. So they don't have to print this out, sign it, send it back to me, you know, find a scanner or a fax machine. The expectation nowadays is really that everything's going to be done online and it's going to be seamless like that. So that's electronic signatures. If you are not utilizing electronic signatures yet and it's something that you want to do, let me know after the webinar and I'll tell you how to implement that. The second thing here is the credit card authorization form. So this is really the big one. You need to collect a payment from the client to confirm an event, and doing things manually, it puts a lot of pressure on the client and also on your staff. So the client has to print this out, like we said, write in their credit card information, send it back to you, and maybe they don't feel secure about that. You know, it's kind of a lot to ask to have somebody just hand over their credit card information, and we're asking them to do a lot of work to get this payment to us. So what we have is integrations with 2 online credit card processing systems that you can use. And let me first show you how nicely it looks to your client, and then I'll show you how to get that, to implement that if you haven't done it already. So a client can click to authorize their card online. So they'll see this credit card authorization, and they'll be able to click a button here, which is going to take them to a secure portal where they can enter their card information. So they can do a couple of things. They can authorize a card to the event so that you have it on file. So, you know, some people might just say, you know, we want to take a card and we'll hold it on file in case we do need to charge it, or we need a $200 payment in advance. So they can just authorize the card to the event, or they can make a payment. Now, let me take you to a guest portal here. So the guest portal is another point of contact that your customers are having with your venue, that we want to look beautiful, we want to look branded, and we also want to make it really easy for them to get their information. So every Tripleseat event will have a guest portal associated with it. So when you are sending your client an email, a discussion message through Tripleseat, they're automatically getting a link to view their guest portal. They don't have to download anything. They don't have to have a password. They just click the link and it's going to take them right here. And right on this page, we can see it's customized here. So maybe some of you are already using the guest portal, but you don't have it customized. So think of some images or some backgrounds that you might want to put up there that'll make it really stand out and match your branding. But what the client is seeing here is all of their event information, your restaurant information, your contact information. What I love about this especially is they can look at this and know that you have it down. I mean, maybe they emailed you last week and they said, we're actually going to have 42 people instead of, I originally said 40. You know, that seeing it on the page here lets them know that you heard them and that you recorded it and that you have all the information correctly, which is a big relief for them. A couple other things they can do from here. Let's talk about payments again. So once you have an online payment account set up, your clients can come right into the guest portal. They can authorize a card right here. They can pay an outstanding balance, and they can also track any payments that have already been applied to the event. They can get receipts for their transactions. And again, this is all PCI compliant. It takes the pressure off of you to store the credit card information correctly. You'll get deposited amounts into your bank account faster because you're getting that payment right away, and the client can feel totally comfortable that it's all being handled properly. Also in the guest portal, they can pull up any documents that you've shared with them so far, like a contract or an invoice, anything that you've shared with them. They can grab it from here. They can PDF it if they need to print it out. And then they can also have a conversation with you here too. So those emails that you guys are sending back and forth, if they ever wanted to come into their guest portal and track the history of the conversation, they can do that right in here. Let me take a break for a second for questions, and then we'll go on to the next phase of things, which is more about success within your organization and communicating as a team. But let me take a break here and see what questions have come in so far. Okay, so a couple things that have come up. Philippe has asked if we are planning on adding more integrations on any other platforms. Philippe, I'd love to hear if you had a particular platform in mind, like if you were talking about social media or something else that you wanted to see an integration for. Let me know and we can talk about that. And then someone else has asked, at what point in the process, or how do you communicate with your staff on when you have the final details for an event? And I think that's a great question, and it leads us right into our next topic, and that's all about internal communication. So let's go back into this event here. To streamline your internal processes, you have this discussion feature for a staff discussion. So this was in one of Brian's slides, and if you wanted to send a message to your team right here in the staff discussion, that's going to shoot them all out in email, and it keeps a record of the conversation. So, you know, maybe I want to bring my chef's attention to the fact that I changed something on the event order, like please note change from peas to carrots on entree. I can send that message off. My chef's going to get the message. He's going to get a link to the event so he can go right in there and see what I'm talking about. So staff discussions. Now that's going to send an email to everybody on your staff, but your staff can also just come right into Tripleseat anytime and pull up event information. And I think that's really important. I think that there's a lot of people that are utilizing Tripleseat for sales purposes, and they might not have everybody on their team logging in. You can create a login for anybody on your team, and they don't actually have to see everything that you're seeing. So you can create roles and customize roles for those people. So maybe when they log in, all they get to see is the calendar and the kitchen sheets. They don't get to pull financials. They don't get to see incoming leads or contact information. So there's a really wide range of stuff that you can allow them to do. So I say, why not give everybody a login? That really empowers people to come in here. You know, say I'm the sous chef. I work in the back of the house. I want to pop in, take a look at the calendar, see what's coming up. And if I want to go into more detail on something, I can click on that event, pull up my kitchen sheet right from here. So that's something to think about if you don't have everybody on your team logging in. Now, a lot of you will have people on your team that need to be in the know about events, but maybe they're not, they don't have the time in their day to sit down in front of a computer and look at anything. So they're just on the go. Don't forget about the Tripleseat on a mobile device, on your phone, on your iPad. You can access Tripleseat from any device that you have internet on. So people can bookmark the site on their phone browsers, and that'll give them a little icon on their phone. So I also have some material on how to get set up with the button on your home screen like an app if you want anybody to have an app on their phone. So, you know, really, if they're just going to do something basic, if they're just going to go into the calendar and print out PDFs of information. One other feature that I do want to bring to your attention, just because we're on the subject and it's a recently introduced feature and I think it's really cool. If you want to print out a bunch of information all at once from your events, like say you want to print out a week's worth of kitchen sheets, and this is all still in that vein of communication. Say I'm getting ready for my weekly manager meeting, it's Monday, I want a copy of all of my kitchen sheets and all of my BEOs for the meeting. It would be really cumbersome to have to go into all of those events, open the kitchen sheet, print it, go to the next one, do the same. So we have a way for you to do that in just a couple steps. From your event page right here, what you'll do is you'll pull up any date range in question, like say, you know, next week or next 2 weeks. You can filter out to maybe just your definite events, for example. And then down the bottom, I can click on download documents. And that's going to give me an option as to what documents I want. You know, maybe you have different versions of kitchen sheets, but if you just had one or two, I want to say, okay, I want any kitchen sheet on any event. I want a copy of this. You're going to click download, and that's going to send you a file, and you'll be able to print all those kitchen sheets right from that file. And now you can actually print it in one continuous PDF, so you don't have to open a zip file and download all the different documents. You can just print it right from there. So that's a big time-saving feature that's going to help you get the correct and most up-to-date information to your kitchen. You know, maybe you just need to go and replace some outdated BEOs if you did print something in the kitchen. So that's a good way for you to just get that out there to the team really quickly. There's a couple of questions that have just come in specifically about the kitchen sheet. Carrie has asked, can we change the format of the kitchen sheet. Absolutely. The documents that you have on your site are customizable. Carrie, I'm going to direct everyone to the support portal at the end of the call, but also just an email to support@tripleseat.com. They can go in and look at your kitchen sheet, and you can let them know what kind of changes you want made to it. I had another question from Carrie. The link to the guest portal is shared automatically. So the link to the guest portal is shared with them anytime you send a communication. So if you send a discussion through Tripleseat or you share a document, it's going to have the link to view the guest portal.
Hey, Lauren, let's show them let's show them the new link to the tokenized link on the booking page. Let's go back to that event that we had shared before.
Guest portal links right here?
Yep. So this guest portal link is, this one's a little bit different than the link down below. So if you use just the link below, it just brings you to the PDF file. This link actually brings them to the guest portal. So let's say that it is one of those strange situations where you're working with a financial services company and they bounce the email back to you and you have to use, your regular email. You couldn't use a discussion with them. Use this link and they'll still have the features of electronic signature and payment on the guest portal that they would have if you would have shared it with them.
Perfect. And then speaking of electronic signatures, Fabiolo has asked, on the electronic signature, is there an option for other signatures like initials? So yes, they're actually customizable. You can set the parameters of the signature. So you can set the text that's going to display. You can set if it should be initials or if you want a full signature. And then you can also create a staff signature box if you want anybody on your team to countersign with a staff signature, which also goes back to the question that we had earlier about details being finalized. So maybe you set up a process internally where once the event manager countersigns the contract, then you know that all the details are finalized. And you can set that to only be accessible for a staff or somebody that's using Tripleseat.
This is also where I like to say, if you have a trusted advisor who's a customer of yours, ask them what their experience is. In the past, what I've seen is, people will say, we want initials after every paragraph in our contract. And it really, I think at the end of the day, if you ask the customer, if that makes them read it, they're going to say, no, that just makes me initial a lot of things. So really, be careful. Be careful what you wish for in having, an initial on everything, because they probably wouldn't read it anyway. They would just initial it. It doesn't really make it more legal and binding. It just makes them initial things. So just something to watch out for.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like we said before, the whole theme of this is let's make this easy for our client. So yes, we can have initials, but keep it to one signature if you can. You don't want to give them too many hoops to jump through. Okay, I do want to talk for a few minutes about the rebooking process, and once you've had a successful event, how do you follow up on that? And then I know there's a few more specific questions, so I am going to hang on after this last portion and go through those questions and answer them. But let me talk quickly about after the event is executed, a couple things you can do to follow up, hopefully get that rebooked business, and how you can use Tripleseat to simplify and automate any of it. One thing you can do is a thank you email. So a lot of people like to send a thank you email. You can have Tripleseat remind you to send out a thank you email. Many of you might be using the task feature in the events, and you might be used to using these for specific tasks that you want to do for a specific event. And you might not know that we have automatic tasks that can pop up here in this task tab that you can set up in advance. So what I mean by that is, say you like to send a thank you email after every event the next day, we can create a task in our settings that populates for the day after the event and reminds you to send a thank you email. And the nice thing about having that task in there is it's going to show up on your dashboard when you log in. It's going to be part of your daily digest email, so you can't forget to do it. And then to make it even simpler, so it's not going to send the email for you, but it's going to remind you to do it. And then what you can do is set up an email template that has that thank you email already crafted. So in just a couple steps, maybe 2 or 3 clicks, you've got this email out, a nice follow-up thank you email after the event. What a lot of people also like to do is they ask, I want to get some kind of feedback from my client. I want them to do a survey of some sort. So online surveys have been popular for getting feedback on the event. A lot of people will use surveymonkey.com. So what's nice about that is you go in there and create your survey, and then you can just include a link to it in your thank you follow-up email. And then maybe you want to set yourself up a task to reach out to this person in the future and rebook. And remember that tasks can be associated with events. They can be associated with leads. They can also be associated with contacts and accounts too. So say I have my contact, and this guy Bradley does his company holiday party with me every year. So I want to remind myself to reach out to him in August and get that business booked for 2018. So I can create a task in here, reach out to see about holiday events for him. So that's a nice way to keep in touch and follow up with people and try to get that rebooked business. Brian, do you have anything that you want to add before we go, or any other, maybe just any other features that you think are cool that we've rolled out recently that you want everybody to be aware of?
Yeah, so thank you, Lauren. I think that the internal conversation is, it's something that we talked about at the very beginning. It was one of the five keys, and it's also part of your customer's journey. And it's a good one to talk about, especially when, I think, in the last 9 years, I think I've heard about 1 million times, oh, our chef doesn't want to have access to Tripleseat. They don't want to see it. And then when they do see it and they find out how easy it is to get what they need, they're really psyched. And it actually, you just released, you just removed some friction in the experience with your internal team too. So it pays to have some conversations about it and say, hey, you know what, we have this option, or, how's that kitchen sheet working for you? You know what? It is real estate at the end of the day. So, we don't want to make it giant, huge, but, do you want just the menu part a little bit bigger? Oh, no problem. We can do that. That just gives you a ton of internal buy-in, and it makes them feel like they're part of the whole journey also. So I think that's pretty awesome. New features that I really like, if you guys don't have your lost business reason selections set up, I say go ahead and do that. So before lost business was just an option of a box where you typed information. Now we have a drop down, and you can populate the drop down with, chose another venue, no budget for the group, event canceled, and then you can allow an explanation too, like Lauren's showing you. So if you want to have that, it looks great. If you go to a lost business report and you want to sort that by lost reason, and then have the reason, have the explanations below it. It really helps, especially if you're reviewing your lost business, on a regular basis with your boss. I think it's a great feature to use. The other feature, I should have maybe started with this instead of lost business, but there's a new sales report that's really awesome. If you have your sales goals in, it's a really easy report to use. It has the event sales summary, and it just, it tells you how you're doing, and it shows you by person. And if you use fiscal periods, the dates are in there, but the goals aren't in by fiscal yet. We'll have that shortly. And here I can see this one's been customized down a little bit, but I can see quarter 1, 2, 3, 4, my annual total for all of my different locations. So reports are improving all the time. And this one, if you expand on this one or play around with it a little bit more, there's a bunch of other options to it. So definitely take a look at that report and see if it gets you what you need. Again, we want to really, the focus of this is customer success and making them have a successful event and them feeling like you really knew what their experience was like. Don't ask someone to, fill out a one-page survey and return it back to you, because nobody wants to do that. And if the person that's doing that might not be the right person, or you might not have the counter of someone that's just not going to do it, because I probably would never do it. But if I had a quick, 2 or 3 question survey, like on SurveyMonkey, that was easy and I could just click on them, I probably would do that because I had a great event and I wanted to respond to you. So it's definitely worth, making sure that any place where the experience is at risk, which is every time something is handed off, that it's smooth and it's clear and everyone knows what they're doing. So that's it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for highlighting those new features. Those are good ones. Hey, I just want to show you guys before we go. A lot of you might have some questions about implementing this, and you want some one-on-one help getting any of this started. If you click on help and questions, that's always in the upper right corner of your screen. Send in a ticket to our support staff. It's going to go to everybody on the support team. You'll get an answer very quickly. It's just like an email to the support team. You can also just send an email to support@tripleseat.com. So they will help you out with individualized any questions that you have. If you liked this webinar, which I hope you did, come back for another Beyond Basics webinar. We have one on April 4th. It's going to be all about utilizing online payments. So today we talked a little bit about online payments and how that can streamline things. So we're going to go into more detail about that in a couple weeks on the next session and how to get that set up. There's some other resources in here for you as well. There are video tutorials and guides. And then when our agents are online, you can actually just shoot them a message right there and they'll answer you right away. So that's your support portal. So thank you guys so much for coming to this. Love to hear any feedback that you have about any of our webinars, or if you have topics that you'd like to see covered on the webinar, I'd love to hear about that. So feel free to email me. Have a great afternoon. Appreciate it.